breaking the fourth wall.
Oh, you!
I was muted.
There you go.
And salutations, everybody. Welcome to the first ever premiere episode of the Dirt Sheet Radio presents CJ and Tyler's NXT Level Up Adventure. I am Tyler, the pro wrestling hipster, here with, of course,
the other half of CJ and Tyler, CJ Carter. Love talking NXT, man. I'm so glad we finally got this show up and running.
Yeah, because it was a very fear is coming sort of scenario we had going on for the last few weeks. But we promised this weekend that we'd finally get it together, and we are here to talk about NXT Level Up and talk about NXT in general. And we are happy that you guys have joined us here today live and, of course, in demand. We're going live with the first episode today. In the future, we might do this pre-recorded, not 100%. And I will say slightly more bare bones today. This is my first time looking at this from this side on all this. But before we get started and talk about tonight's show, I do, of course, have to give a shout out to our partner on the web out there. That is comicbookclick.com. comicbookclick.com/Dirt Sheet Radio for all of your pop culture, comic book, and professional wrestling needs. Go check it out. Make it your homepage. Check it out multiple times a day, just like we do. Not because we're legally obligated, but because we love to do it. But folks, we're here to talk about NXT Level Up for the first time ever. Now, if CJ, now for the folks uninitiated, if maybe they're tuning in just because they like to hear the dulcet tones of our voices, tell the folks at home kind of what the premise is, what Level Up is to NXT.
So if you view Level Up, or if you view NXT in general as sort of the developmental system for WWE, Level Up is the developmental system for NXT. So a good number of the faces that you'll see on here are getting ready for the main NXT product, the main TV show. So this is kind of the proving ground for NXT. So even just on a show level, like, we understand that it's a learning experience. So we're coming at this from they're learning. So even as far as the end of the show goes, we don't have a jobber of the night. We don't have a megastar. What we have are a remedial student, and we have I can't remember what the other one is. The star pupil, that's what it is. So instead, because we understand everybody's learning, so we don't have jobbers and megastars in Level Up, because that's not the point of Level Up.
Yeah, it's not fair to them, we always say that NXT is Hickenbottom High, so I guess this would be more of the middle school here in the U.S. I don't know what grade 7, 8 up there in
junior high.
Junior high. See, you guys do junior high? See, I grew up in a state with junior high. When I moved to Ohio, it was middle school. And I'm like, oh, that's different. But that's what they do here in Ohio. So middle school it is. But yeah, so it's a fun, quick show, guys. It's always on Friday nights right after SmackDown. It's
half an hour long.
Yeah, half hour, usually a tight 3 matches, couple of interview segments. And hey, we're going to break it down for you here this afternoon. And so the opening itself, I really dig. It's a cool juxtaposition of stars that have went through the NXT system. Some of them, it was still a little more Florida Championship when they went through, but, I digress. But it juxtaposes images of them in that system and on the main roster once they really hit it. Charlotte Flair, Roman Reigns, and so on. And so it's a pretty cool little opening to give folks an idea of what WWE is doing here, growing their own talent.
And can I just say that I appreciate that they still have a opening video? Like, I miss those for Raw, SmackDown, NXT so much. It just adds something a little bit extra. It really gets you hyped for the beginning of the show, and I really wish they would bring them back. They did for a little while when Triple H took over, back when Stephanie was still co-CEO. Yeah. And then they just stopped, and every single week, I shed a little itty bitty tear.
I dig it. It's got that old school feel. It does, like, NXT in general has this feel, but it's a little more prevalent, I think, with Level Up. It does have that, old school studio wrestling feel. WCW Saturday night, 605, like that kind of feel. Especially with it being generally the same audience week in and week out. We'll talk about that a little bit later after we're through the matches here on Level Up.
Because I imagine they tape Level Up on the heels of NXT.
I'm not certain if they do it before or after.
Like it's on the same day though.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely on the same day. I'm sure if you sync up and look at the audience there, they're in the same position since they were.
It was the same thing with Main Event when they would pre-record matches for Main Event before Raw went live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But all right, so tonight's matches, we're gonna do this a little bit differently. Normally, if you are familiar with the DSR rewinds, we usually do them directly one after a show. This is clearly a day and a half after Level Up airs. But we usually start with the main event and then run through the rest of the card chronologically. With this, we will just be going through the card chronologically, as there are only 3 matches on the Level Up card. So our opening bout this evening we had was Jakara Jackson taking with Lash Legend at her side, taking on Kendal Gray with her friend Carly Bright. This match went just about 6 minutes, and Jakara Jackson picks up the win here. CJ, man, what do you think of this opening match between, one of NXT's regular mainstays and newcomer Kendal Gray?
Well, and this is one thing that I really like about being able to do Level Up is learning the faces of some of these new crop of NXT talent before they hit Tuesday nights. So this was the first chance I ever got to see anything with Kendal Gray. I thought she did very well. I was almost expecting her to win the match, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, it was a great match. I love seeing Jakara get the spotlight. I think we even talked about this on Tuesday, where she doesn't get as much of a spotlight as the other members in Metaphor. So for her to be able to get in the ring and toss it around with someone with the experience of Kendal Gray, because they talked about it a few times on commentary, like undefeated in amateur wrestling before coming to NXT, like 61-0, I think she was.
60. I actually have that in my notes right there. Yeah, 61-0 is what they said. Yeah. So I mean, phenomenal athlete. Like.
Mm-hmm. She had a fantastic showing. So I think that if she keeps kind of trending the way she's doing, I imagine we'll see her on Tuesdays, probably even before the end of the year.
Yeah, because as far as there, she's not wrestled Tuesday nights at all. She's been seen with Carly Bright a couple of times. But yeah, that's been the extent. I don't really know if she's even spoken very much on NXT proper. But yeah, she had a great showing here. And as you said, it's awesome to see Jakara get a little more of a spotlight, because typically with the Metaphor, right now the bulk of the light is clearly on Oro Menza with everything going on with Ethan Page. But even still, between the women of Metaphor, usually Lash is the one that gets more attention put on her. And Jakara's got chops. Like, we usually see her more in a tag team scenario and not so much on the one-on-ones. And she looked great here,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, glad to see her getting that spotlight for sure.
And, and commentary really did put over, like you were saying with Kendal, the amount of amateur wrestling experience she has, which is very important. I should say the commentary team here, it was Brian Saxton and Blake Howard. Byron. Gosh, I do that almost all the time. I'm sorry, Byron. I've called you Brian so many times during your tenure with WWE. You don't know about it. You've never heard me do it once because you don't know who I am. But I apologize nonetheless.
He's watching right now. He's like, "Oh, I saw the hashtag NXT Level Up on Twitter because
and I was shocked.
We tweeted it out before the show." And so he's definitely like, "Oh, what's this Level Up adventure? I'm gonna have to look into that." That is not my Byron Saxton impression. I don't have a Byron Saxton impression. But I mean, Blake Howard, very much in the same sort of vein as Vic Joseph, a guy that, like, he doesn't dress like a main roster commentator, but he's just as good.
Yeah,
Like,
he's great. Like myself, I feel he often talks a little more quickly than he should. I feel like, he's really trying to jam a lot of information about talent in a relatively short amount of time. Like I said, this match went just around 6 minutes, and nothing really goes much past 5 or 6. On Level Up. So, kudos to him for working in a lot of information very quickly, almost Excalibur-like in his speedy delivery with information, but very good nonetheless. Yeah, and that's something else about this. It's not just about seeing the in-ring talent grow and foster their abilities. It's everyone in every aspect of production. It's not just even in front of camera. It's sound and camera folks as well, but the ring announcers, the commentary, the backstage interviewers, everybody is learning as they go here, and it's really wonderful to watch that.
And I've never been one to speak badly on Byron Saxton as far as his commentary skill goes. So the fact that Blake's got someone with the experience that Saxton has to learn from, that's just another valuable asset down at the Performance Center.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you talked about, Level Up being an opportunity to see talent sometimes for the first time, or even, more often. That's something else about this I like too. It's more reps. It's more reps for the talent. It's more reps for the commentary. It's more reps, for the backstage interviewers. Everybody. The more often you do these things, the better you're going to get at it. And that's, and true with anything, professional wrestling, commentary, the whole thing across the board, reps, practice makes perfect, as they say. Or what was it really Regal used to say? Proper preparedness prevents a piss poor performance, or something to that degree.
that sounds about right.
Yeah. But CJ, man, anything else on Jakara Jackson and Kendal Gray tonight?
No, great showing, great match, and go Level Up.
All right, so moving on from there, we saw a little earlier in the day backstage segment in one of the training facilities there at the Performance Center. We had Dion Lennox, who we saw in the men's breakout tournament on NXT proper months ago. But we saw him talking to Uriah, which I want to say Uriah Heep every single time I hear his name. Old band for those of you that have vinyl records in your collection. But he was confronting him about how fast and loose Uriah is with the rules, and how, it's not okay that he's willing to cheat to get ahead. And, Uriah basically told him, this is why he's going to succeed and why Dion will not succeed, and why he's going to keep losing while he wins. Pretty solid little backstage segment here. The two started to brawl, and then Hank and Tank broke them up. Always love seeing Hank and Tank any chance I get. But yeah, I thought both of them sounded pretty natural here. A lot more smooth than you would expect from developmental. But CJ, what'd you think of the little quick segment there?
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to watch a couple of Uriah Connor's matches from Level Up in the last couple of weeks. And obviously, yeah, we saw oh God, what? I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now.
Lennox.
Yes. Yeah, we saw him in the breakout tournament. So I imagine this is going to set up for a match on Level Up next week.
Yeah. They didn't announce anything, but it definitely felt that way coming out of it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm here for it. Like you said, I always love seeing Hank and Tank too. I don't know what it is. Something about their characters just really resonates, and I just putting a smile on my face every time I see those guys.
Well, there's just an old school, kind of grunge feel to their characters. Like I said, we've compared them to Public Enemy before. I mean, they were dressed just like them a couple weeks ago on the show, but
this between Lennox and Connors, using Hank and Tank as background dressing for this match. How do we feel about that as a use for Hank and Tank? Obviously, like we said, any chance we get to see them is great, but I mean, they don't get a whole lot of use on NXT, and when they show up on Level Up, they're just background actors for someone else.
I mean, any TV time is good time. I mean, there is an aspect of that to it. But I don't know. I think there's definitely a much better use for them. But even Sean said in that media call regarding NXT in general, there's going to be a rotation of talent. They have a large pool to draw from down there. And he said that, for the most part, the guys and gals down there are understanding of that, not every week's going to be necessarily your week, but I'd like to see them get a more prominent role on NXT proper. I think they have a lot to offer as a tag team. I do, though, sometimes worry that, while I think he takes it more seriously than Vince did, I do worry about how seriously Triple H takes tag team wrestling still.
That's fair.
And, and with Hank and Tank, like, I love tag team wrestling, and I think there is, no shame at all, never should be, in being a career tag wrestlers. We've been fans long enough that, there are guys that you don't think of as single wrestlers in your head one iota. No one, when it comes to, the Road Warriors, no one's like, oh yeah, man, all those, singles victories that Hawk had were really great. It's like, no one thinks about that. Even with the Dudleys, I really think like Bubba Ray had a really great breakout singles career, way after the Dudleys split. The Bully Ray character, possibly a little too close to how he really is. He had a lot of success with that. He really, really did. But when someone thinks Bubba Ray Dudley, their first thought is not Bully Ray. It's going to be the Dudley Boys. And so, like, there are people like that. But I don't know. I worry about that, if there's that kind of space for them as a tag team.
I think so. I think it's, like you said, they just have to rotate around and try and get everybody a little bit of TV time. And, sometimes it's going to be a few months before we see them. Do you think this is going to balance out once NXT Europe launches? Because, I mean, that will create some more content, which I'll tell you right now, if you come to me and say, hey, I want to start rewinding NXT Europe, I'm just like, let's talk about it. But
if and when that conversation does happen, that might have to be combining some things. It'll be the Level Up Europe show, but because
NXT Euro trip.
Fantastic. Don't give Chase U any ideas, because they will absolutely latch onto that Euro trip concept.
I actually watch. I'm gonna watch Eurotrip again, and just like I'm gonna put like Chase U alumni in the movie instead of the actors.
Yeah,
see if that changes the experience.
Yeah, just Rich Holland, shouting about Manchester United and all that, right? Opening beer bottles with his eyes.
Oh, if anybody in Chase U could, I'd say it's Ridge Holland.
Yeah, agreed. All right, folks, we're gonna move on to the second match we had on the Level Up card this week. We had Adriana Rizzo of the family taking on newcomer Lainey Reid. This was the first time I think I'd ever seen or heard Lainey Reid's name. Heading into this match, obviously, Miss Adriana Rizzo, we see every single week on NXT proper alongside the family. Now, I will say I thought it was interesting that Adriana did have the family with her, but it wasn't the family in its entirety. It was Luca and Stax. No Tony D.
Because I mean, like, we had a match a couple weeks ago that Luca Crucifino had on Level Up. He came out with the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's
really?
Not,
okay, so I didn't catch that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, Tony D came out because I can't remember who Luca's match was against, but his opponent and Tony had a bit of a standoff at some point during the match.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't quite. So that isn't good. I wonder if Tony was just busy with something, or if this is, he was watering his basil plants. What was going on?
He was talking to Charlie Dempsey about taking care of a problem.
Yeah, exactly. A problem that he doesn't want no part of now after he found out that it was Dame that was the oh goodness. But yeah, I thought this was a really, really good showing, especially for Adriana Rizzo. Like, we don't get a lot of opportunity to watch her wrestle. I think even we had discussed in our chat how many times we had seen her wrestle in a singles situation, and I can only really think of once. I think you said once for sure.
Two is a maybe, three is a stretch.
Right. But no, she looked great here. She had a beautiful looking Northern Light suplex, which I'm a big mark for. It's one of my favorite moves wrestling always has. I absolutely love it. But yeah,
when it's done right.
When it's done right, yeah, that's true. Most moves, there can definitely be. I've seen some really terrible Faymasters in my day. Anything can look bad. But no, she looked great, and Lainey did here too. Lainey was very athletic and very acrobatic. There, didn't really seem to be a lot of conflicts or clunkiness. Moving a little bit slower in a couple spots, but again, it's developmental. That's to be expected.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like you said, it was a great match. First time I had heard of Lainey Reid as well, so I was very surprised with the level of athleticism that she was putting on display. The thing that also surprised me after the win was seeing Adriana reach down and help pick Reid off the mat, so good show of sportsmanship. Which even in the context of NXT, great show of sportsmanship. In the context of the D'Angelo family, where it's like we've seen them throw people off bridges and they disappear. Is this out of character? Even just a little bit?
I would say a little bit, yeah. I mean, they've definitely had the family, starting to lean more face over the last, really since the Heritage Cup win. It's really been since then that they started to really transition more face. But it is still a little out of character. It's not as hard-edged or aggressive as, even she was presented when she was first brought in as a member of the family. Even just delivering those initial manila envelopes with secret images to Chase U and JC Jane back then. Because I think those were the first vignettes we actually saw her in. She was a lot more aggressive and seemed a lot more mean there. But this was definitely a much more babyface showing for her. And again, though, that's kind of how Tony D's been. And they've been getting that babyface reaction, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, I'm not going to, I know I said out of character, but I mean, just from the sense of, how many members of a mafia family would you imagine? We just beat this guy down for non-payment, but then we helped him up and gave him a sandwich and a cup of coffee afterward, kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I mean.
I pretty much watched The Sopranos in its entirety, and I don't recall that ever happening. So that is a fair point.
Tony Soprano was never just like, "Hey, come on, champ, shake it off. Let's."
Sorry, I broke your jaw. Here's some gabagool. Not the gabagool. Oh man, but no, I thought both women looked really good here. Like I said, this one went to about 4 minutes and 40 seconds, give or take a couple seconds there. Literally timing these with a stopwatch, y'all. But I mean,
it's a half an hour show, so you're not going to get 12-minute matches when there's 3 of them.
But you're going to get longer matches than you'll get on speed. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And by that, I mean the show, obviously, not substance. Y'all don't do that in any regard, let alone wrestle on it.
Both are still accurate, technically.
That's true. Oh, geez.
The matches that you have on speed are literally just actually punching the guy in the face until he's unconscious.
Lord.
Stay down.
Why are you getting up? Why are you hitting yourself?
He's literally just using the guy's hand.
Oh, man. But
And I love this. I love doing this show already. Like this
yeah,
is
this is fun.
this is good stuff.
Like I said, we love NXT here anyway. We never get enough NXT, so this is good times, guys. Good times. But before we had our main event in the backstage area, Sarah Schreiber was interviewing Kendal Gray after her loss, and of course, her friend there was with her Carly Bright. And this is when they discussed, I think, too, again, her 61-0 record as an amateur wrestler. And, this was a very much, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, buy the bootstraps kind of promo. But she sounded good here. Very believable, very natural. It didn't sound overly rehearsed. And, it was just a good, quick little, babyface promo. Reorient yourself, come back, get some wins. Sounded good.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Tyler. We talked about how the promo between Uriah Connors and God damn it, I forgot his name again.
Dion Lennox.
Yes, from the breakout tournament. The problem is I've got like a preview article with the names of everyone that's like competed in a match this week, and then like further on down it talks about Shiloh Hill facing Uriah Connors recently. So I can see Uriah Connors' name, and then Dion Lennox, anytime I'm not thinking about him, his name just vanishes from my head. But anyways, so this segment in the back, it felt very rehearsed, and you know how you kind of get that cadence of like, I have a set amount of time that I need to say everything that they've scripted for me. I'm gonna talk at this cadence. I'm gonna say everything that I need. I already know what I'm going to say, so I'm not gonna have much spaces between my sentences. That's the kind of thing that I notice a lot in this promo, but NXT in general. So that threw me off a bit too, John. And I even got a heads up about it, but then I was like, oh, that's not his living room. But yeah, in this particular segment, I noticed that a lot.
Yeah. Oh. I just now saw the comments coming up in there too, guys. So this is my first time running the background on any of this. I'm doing it without.
Yeah, shout out John for making it look so easy.
The Spicoli attack bottom by it does. Yeah, seriously, John, you make this look just like seamless and so simple. There's so many screens. It's a lot going on. I need like 5 monitors here. I feel like I need to be running Shield over here. But yeah, so it's a good presentation. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Caesar. I haven't watched Speed.
Yeah, same.
So I'm going to say Level Up's better just by default.
Yeah, Speed requires me having to view more content on Twitter than I have to, which is ironic. Like, it's the only social that I plug after all these shows. So you'd think I would be looking at getting off Twitter. No, I just don't want to give it more attention than absolutely necessary. The Speed champion was on SmackDown on Friday, and his belt was nowhere to be seen. Like, you cannot take this show seriously.
Yeah, that to me is one of the crazier things about Speed is that like it only exists on Twitter. Like, I mean, they acknowledge it in passing by name on the main shows, but they don't really talk about it like in proper. No one ever walks out with the belt. Ricochet didn't wear it once on proper television.
Andrade hasn't since he won it either. I look at it from like a perspective of like Hugo from that Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons. Like,
yeah,
they keep him locked in the attic and they don't want to acknowledge him, but you know, when it comes time that they have to, it's just the Speed title is a fish head.
Yeah, there you go. That is, the Speed title is a fish head. Jesus. Oh man. But all right, so let's talk about tonight's NXT Level Up main event. We had DJ Eddy Thorpe taking on Shiloh Hill. If I was Shiloh Hill, I would ask for a slightly different graphic here.
Yeah,
But
not the best from
no,
WWE's imaging department.
looks like he's auditioning for the flock with that picture. Like,
He looks like he's a Husky Harris,
mm,
like that's the vibe he's going for.
yeah, it is. Maybe I mean it's it. Maybe it's a a Husky Harris homage of sorts. But
Impersonator. That's the word I was looking for.
there you go, person, yeah. But yeah, folks, obviously you're very familiar with Eddy Thorpe. We see him a lot on NXT television proper. And this is, of course, kind of a little warm up match of sorts ahead of him taking on Lexis King this Tuesday night on
Who
NXT.
came out on commentary for this match right before things got underway. And I love seeing Lexis King basically just be Lexis King. He's a natural on commentary, and hopefully, yeah, I feel like I say this every single feud that Lexis King has, but I want this feud with Eddy Thorpe to like lead to something.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more times I can say it before the words lose all meaning, but look,
I mean, it can lead to something for sure, but like, I don't think he's going to win the program because I mean, Eddy Thorpe just had a slight gimmick change. And and I was curious to see how different it was going to be. It's pretty
I'm
much
glad
the same
his
Eddy.
in-ring presentation didn't change.
No. Was his music different?
Nope.
Okay. See, I didn't think so. I was trying to listen to it pretty closely to see if it had changed up a bit. But yeah, I'm curious to see though if I'm curious to see if Tuesday if there is any change up in that because they are really pushing this new I shouldn't say new DJing aspect as I have found out through the online says because God knows people will correct you with proper information real fast when you have it wrong. But he does have DJing experience. He was doing that when he was working at the New Japan Dojo out west. He's been doing that down in Florida as well. So this is like a real thing about who he is as a person. But it'll be interesting to see if they do change up his presentation at all come Tuesday.
I don't think they will. I think if there's, well, I mean, I'm glad that they made a small tweak because it adds a layer to his character. But I think as far as his in-ring presentation goes, he had it. There was nothing wrong with coming out the way he does, dressed how he does. Like, it's all to pay homage and respect to his Native American heritage. And I feel like if they take that away from him, that is going to wind up being more problematic than anything.
Yeah, I agree. No, because a lot of his character and presentation, again, just absolutely who he is as a human being, is very heavily tied into that. The entrance, his gear, everything. But if they can amalgamate that with this, new aspect of his personality, it'll be cool. It'll be very interesting because they really are making this a lot of the basis of the issue between he and Lexis King. Beat bop robot music. Now it's so like I can say this. I'm an American. I can say this. It is such a stereotypically American thing. Like, man, it's about rock and roll and not light beer. No, Bud Heavy. Screw that light business, man. Like, that's really how this feels. It's like he's literally saying it's about rock and roll and guitars and drums and not this beat bop electronic. Like, it's wild. It's such a interesting premise for an argument between people. It almost feels like something from general manager mode from like WWE 2K.
Well, I mean, it's the same kind of argument that leads to like Symphony of Destruction matches with Elias or anybody with a musical gimmick,
Right.
But I love seeing just another layer added to these NXT talents. Like, we kind of talked a little bit about on Tuesday about how if NXT has a problem with creating gimmicks that don't translate well to the main roster. Do the DJing aspects of Eddy Thorpe's character fit that category of translating well, or do you think that if he does end up going to the main roster, he's just not going to be a DJ anymore?
I think that would actually translate well to the main roster, especially with a younger crowd.
I think so.
And again, and that's kind of predicated on them being able to. It sounds like a plane just flew by.
Okay, so there is a plane overhead on my end.
Okay.
I'm surprised that got picked up by the microphone, though.
It's a hell of a mic, man. That needs to be one of our new sponsors. Good Lord.
Hey, John, I know you're watching. Reach out and see if that's something we can do. Pick up sounds from thousands of feet away with the this particular microphone. They're not sponsoring us yet, so I'm not going to mention them. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But as I was saying, like, I think that this being kind of dependent on them properly amalgamating, kind of the more traditional Native American aspects of his character and presentation with this, I think it could work really, really well. And I actually think it would work to his benefit too, because I would fear that in just 2024, there would be a segment of people that would look at that presentation and kind of just turn their nose at it, just as like, not really understanding it. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like kind of how people would view Tatanka as a character, or it's just like, oh, this feels a little pandering. Like, is this really who he is? Like, if people would really want to vet it. And this is Eddy Thorpe, guys. This really is, his heritage, and I would worry people would almost reject it just for that. Like, there's an aspect of that, but I feel like if you can kind of mix those together, you really would have a cool, modern main roster gimmick. But it's going to take some time to get there.
It is a pretty fine line to walk, I think. And the reason why it strikes me as a gimmick that might not work on the main roster is because we've already seen a bit of pushback on the EDM elements of Carter and Chance's gimmick. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember there being a segment not long after they got on the main roster where they were at some EDM club and they get confronted by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven.
Right.
So, like, but when was the last time we saw something like that for them on the main roster?
Right.
So
yeah.
I think
really.
Yeah, it might not translate well, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see if he does end up on the main roster, if that ends up going with him. But I mean, we talk about Eddy Thorpe a lot on Tuesdays as well. What do you think of Shiloh Hill?
He's got a good base look. This is the first time I recall seeing him. Unless my memories escaping me there, I don't really remember seeing him work a match before this past Friday.
He did have a match against Uriah Connors.
Okay.
Recently, and I don't remember much about it, but this match that he had with Eddy Thorpe was good.
Yeah. I thought they both looked pretty good here. Shiloh
pretty hard hitting overall.
Yeah, and I expected that. Going into this, I kind of wondered, I wonder if this is going to be as kind of stiff and slappy and hard hitting as a traditional Eddy Thorpe match is, with it being a level up bout. But it really was, which is good to see that Eddy Thorpe's going to be Eddy Thorpe no matter where you drop him at this point. But yeah, I thought that he seemed believable. I didn't for a second think he was going to beat Eddy Thorpe. And that's something about NXT too. This is, I don't think there was really question in any of these three matches tonight as to who the winners and losers would be. And that's perfectly fine, guys. There's a strong tradition to squash matches for a good reason. And this is an example of that. It let you see, if you've never seen Eddy Thorpe before tonight, you got a good indication as to who he is as a wrestler and what he's capable of in the ring. And obviously, like I said, Shiloh had some good spots and had a couple little comeback moments, but this was an Eddy Thorpe match. This was about showing Eddy Thorpe and also about furthering his feud with Lexus. But no, Shiloh has a cool look. Like I said, he looks a little, looks a little bit, Raven
like generic sort of creator wrestler from 2K.
Yeah. If you hit that randomized button on there a couple times, you're going to get a little bit. You'll get a little bit of ink. A couple different versions of the hair. Maybe it wasn't in his face the first time. But
kind of reminds me of like when Baron Corbin had hair.
Oh yeah. Very this kind of like unkempt, wet, greasy kind of.
Perpetually wet.
Yeah, like how are you always this moist, sir? It doesn't make any sense. Like, are you just walking through those misters that they have at like Universal Studios constantly? I don't know.
I mean, they're in Florida, so who knows?
I will say on Shiloh Hill's name, and I try not to hammer the names too hard at NXT at all, because like sometimes it does feel a little random name generatory. Sometimes maybe something folks in a different line of entertainment would use as names. We'll say strippers and porn stars, guys. Especially Lainey Reid. Lainey Reid was a very pub-sounding name, we'll say.
I kept wanting to say Riley Reid
Yeah.
For like almost every single time. And then I had to like make the conscious choice to be like, no, not Riley Reid. Don't say Riley Reid. Nope. It is
Lainey Reid.
Lainey Reid.
But Shiloh Hill really does sound like a location, or like a place a Civil War battle would have occurred. The Battle of Shiloh Hill in 18. But it's not super important. It's NXT. Obviously, a lot of folks go through name changes and such before they make it up to the main roster. But Shiloh Hill is not a name that I would see headline.
Do you know that, or do you remember? Because the video showed up in my timeline recently that Fallon Henley used to wrestle in NXT 1.0 under the name I don't know how do you pronounce it, but I think it's like Tenilla, Tenilla Price.
I didn't remember her under that gimmick or name. So you know what? There's the proof that it doesn't matter that much, because I was unaware that she worked that. I'd have to look that up to even see what she looked like under that gimmick. But because obviously we sing very high praises of Fallon Henley about how far along she's come, and again, didn't know that was ever a gimmick she had. So yeah, I guess it really does not matter. So here, 2 years from now, we can be talking about Shiloh under a completely different name and gimmick, and only remember this because we had this conversation, and it's in the archives of Dirt Sheet Radio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, like, I know that they have a history of dropping names or changing names on a whim. So, if they decide he's Shiloh Hill one week and the next week he's I don't know why, but the first thing that popped into my head was just Braxton Higgs. It's like if they could,
the contractions,
because I like the first.
Don't give them any ideas. Okay. There's going to be a Braxton Higgs on NXT in 2 weeks now.
Because everyone watches our Level Up adventure.
Yep, they sure do.
They've been eagerly anticipating it as much as what was his name? Brian Friend.
Right. Yeah, Brian Friend. Yeah, Brian Friend.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. If you know, you know. That's a little inside baseball. But yeah. God, now I'm just thinking about the Braxton Hicks gimmick. Like it's all. Gosh, what a.
He just like his finisher is literally just like a bear hug, but literally just like pushing on their midsection.
This could be a really successful indie gimmick. It really could be, guys. So if anybody out there is watching aspiring indie wrestlers and you want to use it, just give us a shout out. You don't even have to pay us. Just let us just be like inspired by CJ and Tyler.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the match itself, like you said, was good and hard hitting. Went just over 5 minutes. It was about 5 minutes and 5 seconds before Eddy Thorpe claimed victory. And as the show concluded, he and Lexis King argued from the ring to the commentary booth there as it went off the air, setting up for their match Tuesday night, which I like that they did that too, because it makes Level Up. If you don't watch Level Up, okay, you're missing some fun little action. You're missing some fun, short matches. You're missing some good action. You're missing some little interview segments. But you can watch NXT proper, and you're not really missing a lot. But you get that little bit extra, and it does tie into the main show, which I think is really cool that they do that. I think a lot of folks watching that would kind of wonder if it's, kind of its own little universe, a little bit more how kind of like main event is, or how Speed's a much better example of that. It's its own insulated little universe that doesn't really affect anything else. But what happens on NXT Level Up does sometimes get discussed on NXT proper. And as saw here tonight, it does lead directly into stuff that takes place on the main show there.
I remember before Money in the Bank, like there was still like in the episode of Level Up, there was still like a few mentions of Money in the Bank. And it's like, this is a half-hour show. You're trying to, and it was kind of like you talked about earlier, like he's got a lot to fit in the span of a half an hour between Level Up, NXT proper, and now the rest of WWE. Like there's a lot that goes on in these shows. I would say it's probably most akin to like a house show where they have a little bit more that they can do because not a lot of people can or do watch them. So it's almost like a unique experience every time you watch it. So that's what excites me for Level Up, I think, the most is like NXT proper was always, it felt like they were able to do a little bit more with it because they were the younger generation. Like, oh, I don't know any better. I'm just, I'm learning. And then Level Up is like a little bit further in that direction of like, yeah, we can mess around a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to continuing on our Level Up adventure for sure.
Absolutely. And folks, that is the match portion of the Level Up adventure this evening. But as said on the socials and such, that there would probably read that as definitely be deep dives that CJ and I will be discussing week to week here. Because as we talked about, Level Up is a short show, and there's some topics on the rewinds that come up that we kind of touch into that we're just not able to give the proper dedication to.
Should we do since we're talking about things outside the realm of this particular episode of Level Up, should we do the honors of the night?
Oh, yeah, you know what? We should. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that now, and then segue into the very, very good studio. This is live radio, y'all.
We're learning, we're growing.
But so let's we'll first then, before we get into the next portion of the show here, we will talk about tonight's NXT Level Up remedial student, someone going back to summer school. Ridge, you look so upset.
Well, I mean, this was also like early days Ridge Holland at Chase U, where we were like, what the hell is he doing there at all? So it makes sense. Did you want to go first with this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I am going to go with this evening. Again, this is kind of a hard thing because I try not to be as judgmental or as harsh, but I am going to go with Kendal Gray this evening. And listen, I thought her interview segment was, pretty decent backstage, but it's the first time I've really seen her work a match, and first impressions are the hardest ones to make. I didn't really feel a lot about her in ring set her apart from anyone else, and again, you're gonna work that kind of homogenized WWE style, especially when you're first starting out. You're running through the motions. It's the kind of the pre-thought out routines that a lot of matches have, the drop down, jump over, collar and elbow lock up at the beginning, that sort of thing. So I didn't get a lot of personality from her in the ring tonight, but I'm sure that's to come as she gets more reps doing that. But so my remedial student this evening is going to be Miss Kendal Gray. Again, another name that sounds a little porny. I will say that.
It's just a little bit. I'm going to go with Kendal Gray as well. I thought her in-ring work was fantastic, but for me, it was the promo segment in the locker room afterwards. The delivery of it was just not. And I get that, like I said, you have a certain amount of time where you have to fit in exactly what they've written for you, and the delivery can feel overly rehearsed, but hopefully that's something that she can get a little bit more natural on. But right now, that's remedial student material for me.
Right. All right. So that's our first remedial student, Kendal Gray. But look forward to seeing what how she improves as time goes on. That's one of the things we love about NXT is watching people grow and excel and become the performers that will someday headline pay-per-views or PLEs. Sorry, don't want to upset Ray out there.
2 years down the road, if we're talking about NXT Women's Champion Kendal Gray, then you heard it here first that we think she there's definitely potential in everyone who competes in Level Up. It's just being
unlocking
able to they have to level up.
Exactly. All right. So that's going to take us into the Level Up star pupil of the night. I absolutely love Duke Hudson in the back of that shot.
I love Duke Hudson, period.
Yeah. He's a fantastic piece of the Chase U five there. But CJ, I went first on the remedial student. Who do you have as the inaugural star pupil?
I got to give it to Eddie Thorpe. Dude looks like $1 million. I'm so glad he's been successful on his return from injury. I think they mentioned it was no, it was in this article that I was looking at. They were talking about his 7th straight singles win being this match on Level Up. So I think he is going to carry that into an 8th win against Lexis King on Tuesday. But either way, I'm glad he's getting the chance to shine. He's a star pupil any day of the week for me.
That's true. Agreed. Fantastic choice in Eddie Thorpe. I went with Miss Adriana Rizzo this evening. I thought that Adriana looked great in that match. Like I said, I was really looking forward to that as one of the announced matches because, I don't, we don't see her in those singles matches very often, and I love her character so much on NXT proper, as with the family in general. Everyone in the family are so well suited for the roles that they are in, and they all click and jive so well together. It's great. It's a great salad, as it would be a Caesar salad, at the Italian restaurant that they go to before they throw people in the river. But I was excited to see her in ring just because, the character aspect of it is obviously very, very important to what a professional wrestler is. But you got to be able to back it up with that in-ring ability. And I think she did. I think she's got a really good, solid foundation as an in-ring performer. Like I said, and part of it was that Northern Lights suplex. I don't know why. I popped for a good Northern Lights suplex. But yeah, I absolutely, I thought she looked great. I like what you talked about earlier, a little out of character, but the babyface kind of show of respect there at the end. Gave her a little bit extra there. So my inaugural star pupil for the Level Up adventure is Adriana Rizzo.
There you go.
But folks, that is going to segue us from the NXT Level Up discussion to, as Adriana said, the deep dives that we'll be heading into on here. Like we said, we often don't have the opportunity on the rewinds because those are for the live, rewind, aspect of what just happened. Those are for the weekly shows where, we do go off the rails quite a bit, but we try to keep it centered on the discussion at hand on those. And topics come up and they fall through the cracks from time to time. And we're going to use the opportunity here with the Level Up Adventure to pick up some of those topics and run with them a little bit more in depth. And CJ, what is the first deep dive topic for NXT that we're going to be discussing here on the Level Up Adventure?
So something that I've kind of wanted to tackle for a little bit, and we've kind of talked a little bit about it on NXT proper, but like you said, we just don't have the time to really dive into it as much as I think you and I both would like to. So for this week, the thing that I wanted to talk about was kind of going back to this conversation that NXT as a brand could still continue to grow. And I'm not saying on the level of Raw and SmackDown, but I think that NXT has outgrown weekly tapings not weekly tapings, but weekly shows at the Performance Center. I think that, and don't get me wrong, having the smaller crowds and not needing to travel around, it made sense when NXT 1.0 was a thing because they were still very much in their infancy. It was probably easier logistically to have a home arena, but it feels like it's more of a disservice now when you're trying to figure out gimmicks that work and characters that work and, building this career for yourself and being in front of the same audience week after week doesn't give that sort of overarching opinion that I think a lot of the rest of their fan base would have.
Yeah, there is a, insulation that comes with being in the PC week after week in front of virtually the same, 300 and some change audience. And we've talked about that, a lot on the NXT Rewinds, that there are gimmicks that work there because of the, communal aspect of that environment. And it doesn't always translate to the main roster because, the community in that realm gets it as it would be, but on mass, they don't. And we had theorized for a very, very long time that was, 100% VKM without question. Vince just does not get how it works down here and how to get that to work up here. He would pull people up there based on, look and appearance and size and nothing else, and he wouldn't know how to use them otherwise. But with, Carter and Chance, that worked at NXT, and it has not worked on the main roster. They've been on the main roster for a minute now. And, the presentation's been very, very similar, but it's not really clicked. So I think from that aspect of, kind of testing these gimmicks in front of a more wide range of audiences could absolutely benefit them. But that would add, an element of expense, to the brand. Obviously, doing it the way they do it, it's, I'm sure it's a lot cheaper doing it as a studio show as opposed to touring. And so now I will ask, if they were going to tour with it, would you have them try to tour independently, or would they be tacked on as like, we're going to film it before Raw or SmackDown? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Oh, sorry. I would rather them tour independently because, one, going to a TV events. So that is 2 hours of SmackDown or 3 hours of Raw. Plus, if they film anything beforehand, like main event before
Yeah.
Raw or speed before SmackDown kind of thing, like that just takes more time as someone at the event. Plus, if they have a dark match afterwards, I like to stick around for those. If you throw 2 hours of NXT taping on top of that, fans are going to get fatigued. Like, there's no way you can expect week after week fans to want to tune in for like to sit in the crowd for 5 hours of wrestling. Like, that's why they had to split WrestleMania into 2 nights.
Yeah.
And splitting SummerSlam. So I think 3 hours is probably the best case scenario. So they would have to tour NXT separately. But as far as increased costs go, you also have increased revenue. You know, like you're able to sell more seats, you're able to sell more merch, you're able to provide a closer to main roster experience by taking them on the road. If they would have done NXT as the game show from a home arena, I think that would have probably gotten over a lot better.
Yeah. I can tell you, I went to a SmackDown when that was what NXT was. And the, obviously myself and, the people I was there with, we knew what the deal was and what was going on. The folks around us, which were mostly parents with their children, were very confused about like why they were changing.
Why Titus O'Neil was like carrying a keg around the ring.
Exactly. They no clue. Like very, very confused about what was happening there. So yeah, I think doing it that way would not benefit the brand at all. But yeah, you're right. If it was done in front of the same group of people, it probably would have worked out a little bit better as that concept. But I'm glad it didn't work well as that concept.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Concept.
Yeah, like why do I need a game show with my reality television? Like it's just a hat on a hat when the hat was already pointless to begin with.
Right. Oh man.
So, but as it relates to NXT 3.0, if they did take it on the road, what do you think some of these changes would be as far as character presentation? Like, who do we think is in NXT right now that would be kind of that first wave of character changes?
To make it a wider appeal. Well, they've already started with the family. The family would have been first on my list because that's when I've talked about how I already think that they've made some changes to that could make it a main roster type gimmick where it would work on mass. Obviously, that's also one I would pick out because there's been a little bit of a resurgence with interest in The Sopranos over the past year or so with its, I think, 25-year anniversary of beginning. That isn't the new series about Tony as a youth coming up, and the fact that Tony D'Angelo's name is Tony D'Angelo. It's Tony.
If they were gonna do this, this best sort of cross promotion possible, because I mean we see the boys sponsoring for leading into Money in the Bank. Let's get this Tony Soprano prequel series, integrate the D'Angelo family as characters in there, and I'm sold.
Exactly. Easy cross promotion. But they're one with that, kind of just more mainstream visual on the, concept of character. I would say that they would be one that you would want on the road that you could tweak just a little bit more. They walk more realism than they do cartoony. There's still a little bit of that kind of very big character aspect, which you're going to always have with professional wrestling characters. But they've toned that cartooniness down a little bit with them, and they've made them a little more stalwart, a little more honorable. lawful evil, almost as it would be. Where it's like, well, yeah, we're going to do underhanded stuff, but as we heard with Tony D, I ain't going to hurt a dame. Like, no, I didn't even hear you say that. I'm gone. But like they're one that'd be the first one I would tweak for that.
Okay.
And then also maybe again Chase U. I'm just kind of picking out things that I know that work well in that enclosed environment that I think with the right little changes. But even with Chase U, I don't know if Chase U would work outside of NXT overall, but I think it would work on the road.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like you can have a Chase U section for whatever arena you're in. It's basically just, okay, well, we can't sell these seats because we got to put plants in there.
Right, exactly. And I mean, hell, it'd be a clever way just for appearances on television to pad a section too, because often how you shoot and how you present it, it's good. And that's one thing about kind of weighing the pros and cons here about going on the road as a developmental brand. You have a wonderful TV presentation at the Performance Center. And I don't know, obviously we see these, we're on, the Twitters and, the social media is looking at pictures and such. If you see the NXT Performance Center, if you see that flipped around from the other side, it looks like a garage.
Oh, yeah. Like I've seen pictures on social media. It's literally like they just film in a warehouse.
Yeah, it looks more playing than Studio B that I'm filming in right now, as it would be. And yeah, none of the cats are in here. I'm allergic to the cats. I love them and they live in our home, but I'm allergic, so they don't come in the bedroom.
Aw.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, but I'm equally as bummed.
Yeah, Maurice is sleeping in the back corner over there, but he's the only dog that's in here actually currently too. All the other dogs are out in the living room. But it looks as plain as Studio B here in parts known Ohio. There's like a timer clock and like just some production stuff, but they've done a good job of framing it and showing it where it looks like a big studio. It looks like a raucous crowd, and they would need to do that going on the road. They'd have to be able to preserve that atmosphere, which I think, WWE is more than capable of doing. You're talking about production geniuses here. But that being said, going on the road, CJ, what kind of venues would you put them in? Because obviously they're not going to be able to draw or even come close to filling what a SmackDown or a Raw would be able to do. You're not, obviously for the bigger shows, the PLEs, we've got a couple big ones coming up. On the road, I've got No Mercy is going to be in Colorado. Halloween Havoc in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Like those, they'll draw in the low thousands. I'm sure you're looking at that probably 2,000 to 3,500 range. But that's not your normal show. Week to week, you're looking at a smaller crowd. So what kind of venues? I mean, are we talking like Ring of Honor style armories? Kind of from back in the day, or?
Well, and I mean, I think that would be like they could, but I think if they wanted to try and sell out arenas, like even smaller venues, not to the same extent as Raw or SmackDown, but I mean, if they wanted to sell out a small arena, I think they could definitely do it.
Yeah.
They can get a couple thousand in. I would say for a weekly episode of NXT, no problem. And this is what I mean by I think they've outgrown the Performance Center. Like we talk about how much we love talking about NXT and how much we enjoy just being able to watch it. I don't think we're alone. I think there's a large section of the WWE fan base that, while they don't watch NXT as much as they watch Raw and SmackDown, I think part of it is because they wrestle in a warehouse. If you start putting them in arenas where crowds can get more into it, like the NXT crowds are into it, but
right.
Because they're a repeat audience, they know each other. They have, like their own culture in the PC that fans at a weekly Raw or SmackDown wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another thing that hampers growth in NXT is not being in front of varying crowds. So if you did want to try and sell out an Armory or some sort of, military veterans group, Legion Hall, whatever, yeah, I think you could do that. Or if you go to an arena like you would for a PLE for NXT, I think you'd be fine.
Well, it's like I look at, an area like Columbus, Ohio, here where I live. We have, a ton of
Not
venues
parts
around
unknown.
the city. Well, I know I got a little kayfabe, guys. Parts unknown, but it's the Columbus Hilliard area.
It's down the road from Columbus. You have a residence in
of,
parts unknown, but you live in Columbus.
And really, I keep the residents in parts unknown for the schools. The schools are great for the kids here, so it's good. But
it's got a lot of like green parks.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. Dudleyville's not far down the road.
Oh,
we play them in football all the time.
I was gonna say probably baseball.
Yeah, baseball. Oh man, but we have a large range of venues, of size and scope here, and something like there's a Veterans Memorial. It's in the downtown area, and it's it can hold largely around 9,000-10,000. But obviously for a television production, you're going to tarp parts that off. You've got your stage and everything. I think like you could make a setup of 2,000 to 3,000 look really, really good there. And you think them having the drawing power, the random appearances of NXT talent on the main roster would really be a lot more meaningful if they were on the road trying to draw an audience. Because then you're right, then it would be the main roster audience would see like before Carmelo Hayes, when he had that really short stint there on SmackDown before he was properly drafted up.
The U.S. title tournament.
Yeah, but he was still like deep in that feud with Trick. That would have boosted sales because they'd be like, oh, I saw that dude like on SmackDown. I'm seeing these ads like, oh, he's going to be wrestling Trick Williams in my town. I'll go check it out. So that would make a lot more sense. Or when Dominic Mysterio was the North American champion, that would have bolstered sales on the road because you would have had people showing up just to boo him. There were stories on the Performance Center of literally hundreds of fans being turned away at the door, children crying and yelling at their parents because they wanted to boo Dominic Mysterio and weren't getting the opportunity. So, those sorts of, cross-brand things would be a lot more meaningful and make a lot more sense if they were on the road. I wouldn't be complaining about Gallows and Anderson being so heavily used in NXT if I knew they were being used to draw to get people in the door on the road.
Mm-hmm. So. Which, I mean, does them still being in NXT to draw fans into the Performance Center, like, why does it feel like they're being used better if they're drawing more fans in a building on the road? Because I mean, like, we talk about how we've been very vocal about our thoughts of how Gallows and Anderson are used in NXT and how it really feels like they're not being used effectively. Right. But at the same time, like, and nothing against Gallows and Anderson, but I mean, if they were on the road and NXT was coming to a town near me and I wanted a front row seat to that televised event, it wouldn't be for Gallows and Anderson. But I mean, like, I get the idea of using the main roster talent to help sell out more arenas. I love that. And yeah, when Dominic Mysterio was coming down and selling tickets and spending time in NXT, yeah, that would have sold some tickets. Those fans that were crying about not getting to boo Dominic Mysterio, like, they would have loved to buy a ticket. That's increased revenue for the company. And I think being able to not be, or even if it's like the special episodes, that's where you go on the road for. Like, if they took the Great American Bash on the road instead of having it at the Performance Center, I think that would be a good trial to see if these weekly episodes would work outside the Performance Center.
And that would be a brilliant way to kind of just, ease in, test the waters for that, see what kind of, what draw or what kind of level of draw they would expect from that, just starting that way. And that would make those shows feel a little more special than they do. Not that they don't feel special, but when they announced the Great American Bash, and then I check, the dates, I'm like, oh, it's a Tuesday night. It's a Tuesday night episode. I'm they pump more into them. They make them, bigger feels. But yeah, getting those in front of a larger audience would be great. And obviously it wouldn't be, I think, on the scale that the PLE proper would be, but it would still be really good for them. And again, just getting those reps in. But then here's another question on this, as far as a touring schedule. If we were talking, even if they're going to do it just on a trial basis with these bigger shows, how far from the home base do you go? How far from Florida do you start?
Well, and I don't think it's anything outside the United States. Like, obviously, like, I would love to see them come to Canada. I know that's not going to happen. If they decide to take them on the road, it's going to be, somewhere in the Florida area. And then you go a little wider in the United States, and then you go a little bit wider. And then, 3 years down the road, or 2 years down the road, even, if you're really in the groove of it, then let's start doing some international TV. We'll go to Canada, we'll go to Mexico. If Raw or SmackDown's going to Europe, we'll go there. If they're going to Japan, we'll go there. Like something that is still, cost effective, but take your time. You don't have to integrate NXT into the same Raw and SmackDown touring schedule right away.
So what I'm hearing is run it like a territory.
A territory within a territory is how I've essentially felt about NXT this entire time. Like, if Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE, there would be a solid case for Triple H buying NXT and creating his own promotion based off that. Like, the foundation was all his to begin with.
Right.
So if they did decide to spin NXT off into its own thing, then I think it would work out well. But thankfully, they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But definitely a promotion in its
way. Kind of a circuit. Like, I kind of, compared it with Ring of Honor earlier. But, before, Ring of Honor was under the All Elite umbrella, before it was really, pulling off bankruptcy by that, they had, more or less a territory. They had a series of venues and paths they would hit, and they would hit those venues with extreme regularity, which is really cool. But then again, though, after a while, you start to fall into a similar issue that you would with the Performance Center, where there were people that I still talk to that I would see in person at these shows. I'd see the same people at almost all the shows I went to. Dayton, Pittsburgh, New York City, like, it was that circuit, but it worked for them. And so, and if NXT could kind of start with something like that, it could definitely spread from there. But I think that, looking at it, it's a territory within a territory. Russian dolls of professional wrestling. There is some legs there. There's something they could definitely make happen.
That they just have to decide that they want to do it.
Yeah, and like I said, like it would be cool. I'd love to have a little more opportunity to get to see NXT live. We talk about this a lot. Obviously, we cover Raw and SmackDown and whatnot, but like week in and week out, NXT is my favorite 2 hours of television. It's what I look forward to the most. Sometimes covering Raw, there's always bright spots, but sometimes on Monday nights I'm like, well, God, at least I've got Tuesday tomorrow. I've got NXT tomorrow. So no matter what happens tonight, we'll make it through. But yeah, seeing them on the road would be cool. I've been to one NXT show, and it was when they were here at Columbus. It was their first show really above the Mason-Dixon line, as far as I know. And it was tied into the Arnold Fitness Festival that they do here in Columbus every year. And it was awesome. It was really cool to see. But they didn't do that often. The show sold out in like 20 minutes, too. It was one of the first, like I said, one of the first times they kind of stepped out up north. Brock Lesnar guy was there. That's how I knew it was a big deal. When I saw him sitting in the seat, I'm like, oh, well, look at that. This is a big deal. But it'd be cool to see him on the road. And it would, like you said, CJ, it'd be beneficial to the talent because part of what NXT is teaching you that WWE style, not just of wrestling, but of presentation, where the cameras are, how to work that, how to work the audience in conjunction with the cameras, how to split your focus there. There's a lot they learn. And going on the road is something that wrestlers have to learn. Your life is on the road. And we talk about people being so young and sometimes in the talent or at the performance center being so talented already and how things can happen too fast, too soon. Touring is one of those things that young talent can really fall down on. And, getting them to learn how to be professional and the touring aspect of it and how to carry yourself on the road. That's something very important too that they would learn.
And I mean, like, the performance center in itself can still operate. Like, Level Up would be the best place to utilize the performance center for a television show. You don't have to rush them on the road right away. I think even some of the NXT proper people, like, they might be able to use some more time for Level Up. Make it even a 1 hour show. Make it something that you film 2 or 3 weeks worth of content at a time, and then you head out on the road to film weekly NXTs, and like there is a balance. And I think that it's, like I said, it's just a matter of deciding that you want to do it. I think it's easier than I think it might think it is.
Yeah. Well, I think it is for the media juggernaut the WWE is. I'm sure that they have so many of those things already in place. It'd be easy to just kind of plug the other pieces in and make it happen. But I mean, like, the performance center could always be its home, as it would be. Still do a couple shows there, still do a little bit of the weekly TV there from time to time, like they do with Daly's Place for AEW, where it's like during COVID, that was what kept them alive and kept them flourishing and going as an organization. And they still do shows there from time to time. They don't do them every week, obviously. They're on the road. But they treat it as a big deal, like it's a homecoming type thing. And they could do the same thing with the Performance Center if they did choose to take the developmental brand on the road.
I think they had, I know TNA's done like a few anniversary shows, like like sometimes they'd go to the Impact Zone, but then other times they'd hit up their old home arena in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And that in itself, like, it feels like a good nostalgia sort of show. So yeah, I would love for a one night only NXT 1.0 rebrand. They reorient the stage so that it's like the 1.0 days, and just have like a what did they, like those old school episodes of Raw?
Where they bring out the big block lettering that like Sabu jumped off of back in the day. That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool. Yeah. And again, like, so much of the main roster is comprised of, that, NXT 1.0 group. You can do some really fun pop stuff with that. That'd be an absolute blast for them to get to do kind of the nostalgia night. And it's crazy to think that NXT has been produced for so long that they could do a nostalgia night.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
There's a history to be written about NXT, and I'm pretty sure like they've already done like historical retrospectives. Like, I think it was a book about like the 1.0 era of NXT has already like been written and released. So I think that there's, like, there's been so much growth over the NXT brand since it started, and not even counting the game show days. Like,
right.
just like starting at 1.0, Dusty's vision, the NXT first ever championship tournaments, like those are the days that the Performance Center was best for. Those days are gone.
Yep. And it's with growth often comes a shedding of the past. It's like a reptile. We have a leopard gecko, and he sheds his skin, and he moves on, and that husk is gone, and he grows bigger and stronger. And CJ, I had my doubts going into this conversation about how I felt about it, but I gotta say, you have swayed me. I do think that it would benefit NXT more than harm it to go on the road. And if any of the brass is out there listening, make it happen, and then pay us.
They might not know that we were going with Level Up this week. I'm sure they were scrambling because they watch us every week on Tuesdays, right. But the all of a sudden, wait, they're doing a Sunday show now? Shit, we need to tune in. They're scrambling right now.
We'll catch up. And we'll see the results as the weeks go by. But CJ, man, before we kind of hop into the closing ups of the shop here, anything else that you want to touch on with the touring, or did we cover that pretty well?
No, I think we pretty much dove as deep as we could with that topic. And man, like this is the show. Like this is what you're tuning in for, is just this analysis, talking Level Up and NXT as a whole. Having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And we appreciate all y'all tuning in. Now, before we get out of here, I have to, of course, shout out to all of the work that gets done here at Dirt Sheet Radio. Guys, if you enjoyed this, tuning in live with us, or if you're watching us in demand and you want to hear more, you are in incredible luck, because Dirt Sheet Radio is here covering every major show throughout the week. We are here on Monday nights, breaking down Monday Night Raw every week. You see us here. And of course, as you know, we are here on Tuesday nights doing the NXT. We are here on Wednesday nights for AEW Dynamite, Thursday nights for TNA Impact, and of course, Fridays for Friday Night SmackDown. And guys, every Thursday morning, late in the Wednesday, but Thursday mornings posted the DSR flagship show. And because it's a lot. Pro wrestling never stops. It never stops. And of course, 3NT, their shows are on Sunday nights, Sundays posted on all of the channels here that you know and love us on as well. CJ, man, where else can the folks watching at home find you?
Well, I mean, you talked about all the programming that we do on a weekly basis. I'm on the Monday show for Raw. I'm on the Tuesday show for SmackDown, or Tuesday show for NXT. I'm on the Friday show for SmackDown. Now I'm doing Sunday's Level Up Adventure. I'm on the Odd PLE. And shout out to Matt and the TNA folks for covering Slammiversary last night.
Yeah.
Hell of a show. Well done. And yeah, otherwise I'm around. I'm at CJ Carter 22 on Twitter, and looking forward to talking Raw tomorrow night.
Yeah, always a blast. Like I said, even when it's a rough 3 hours, it's always fun to talk with my friends about pro wrestling. And yeah, and CJ, big shout out to them over at the TNA show as well, because that's kind of at this point, the NXT and TNA, we are siblings as it is
NXT
right now, and yeah. And the crossovers continued last night for the folks that saw Slammiversary. Was a heck of a show there. But Yeah, and like CJ said, I also will be back tomorrow night for Monday Night Raw and Tuesday nights for NXT, and of course now every Sunday for NXT Level Up and some deep dive discussion. We'll always have some topic or topics ready to roll. And hey, if there's any sort of NXT topic or discussion that you'd like to see us hit, shoot us a message. There's about 1,000 ways you can get in contact with us here at Dirt Sheet Radio. Main page, Pro Wrestling Hipster. You can hit us through messengers on there. We'll get an email address or something set up for the future. But yeah, just hit us up for something you want to hear us talk about, because we don't have a show without you guys watching and tuning in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just talking to each other, and we do that enough on a weekly basis as it is. But this is the only time we do it on camera. It's for you.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. It's for you guys, and we would do it anyway. But the cameras make it a fun element. But hey, we absolutely appreciate and love y'all for tuning in live for the premiere episode of CJ and Tyler's Level Up Adventure. We will see you live tomorrow night. We'll see you for Level Up again next week, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, everyone.
Boop, 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 boop. That's the sound of leveling up.
Beat bop music. We need rock and roll.
Oh, you're hopping on the Lexus King